Hello, Jim Deitz here. Can you hear me?
Morning, everyone. I can hear you, Jim, loud and clear.
Good. I was asked to participate today, and actually, I was first asked to do a little bit of a series on overcoming the fear of sculling. And then when I checked my emails, I realized that somebody changed it to rowing is a lifelong sport. So, seeing that I've been rowing now for 63 years, I consider most people would consider that a lifetime. To consider that lifetime wanting to extend more and more, I try to row every day. All right. Rowing's a high performance sport, and and it has many benefits, both physiological and uh, health wise. And to be able to continue to row and row properly was really going to be the important part of this conversation. All right. I feel like in most clubs, they rush through the process of teaching people to row properly. And we've got to slow that process down. With All American Sculling, now we've been working with masters for 26 years. Since 2018, I've been working with masters solely since retiring from the University of Massachusetts Amherst. I think we've had great success. My partner and I, Mark Wilson, uh, since December 27th, going through to March 1st, we coached over 160 masters. And it's a very small process, all right, in that never will there be more than five people per one coach. And we give a lot of individual attention. The first thing we do when we get masters to our camps is ask them what their goals are. Are their goals are to win a championship, or their goals are just to row better, or their goals are the community of people in rowing, which makes the rowing, special. Are their roles possibly to get a better understanding of the sport so they can teach the sport? And after that is established, we step back and we say that, okay, again, people are rushed into rowing, and they're given equipment that isn't right for them. A lot of the boats and most of the clubs are built for really big men. It's hard to rig smaller men and women in these bigger boats, but to get them rigged properly is what's important. All right. So we go off and we set the spans on the boats for the individuals, the oar lengths, and everything that would go to getting an athlete comfortable in the boat. Being comfortable is the most important thing that we can do in getting somebody to row right. If you're not rigged right, you're not going to row right. If you rig too high, you're probably going to be opening your back early. That's going to set you up to be working major muscle groupings against each other. Opening the back against the power of the legs is going to affect the lower vertebrae of the spine, and that's when people get injured. So making sure that people are rigged properly is a really important thing here. Once we get them in the boat, I had hoped to show everybody a lot of video that we had shot. You want to see really good rowing video, you can see videos of the Sinkovics and other great international athletes rowing, but I wanted to show you guys pictures of other masters, most of them in their 70s that are still rowing all the time and wanting to get better. The slow process that we have when we talk to them, it's like asking the simple questions. Is rowing more simultaneous or sequential? Most people will say simultaneous, and that's absolutely wrong. Rowing sequentially is the best way to get people to row properly. The three things that can make an athlete go faster is the length through the water, the power application, and the frequency of the strokes that you take. We profess that we want people to take really low stroke ratings, lots of pausing in it, and get them to move extremely slowly, understanding where the power is going. I talk a lot about whether you want to be rowing in a defensive environment or in a controlled environment. Well, a defensive environment for a sculler is going to be putting them in a single, and they're going to have terrible balance and they're going to be all over the place. Never at that point will they be able to relax enough to understand where the energy is going. So, being in a controlled environment would be putting somebody in a quad with three people sitting there doing nothing more than balancing the boat, and then going through your sequencing, rowing with your legs, rowing with your legs body, rowing with your legs body arms, and doing it in a really slow, controlled way. So you're actually having a discussion. Where do you feel the weight on your feet? Where do you feel the weight going from your handle through your sternum and out your rhomboid, right? Trying to keep the energy from going up into the shoulders, trying to create an environment where everything has to go horizontally. So that's the main thing, right? Slowly making people understand what the energy is supposed to be going, how it's supposed to be flowing, and how you're supposed to move through the stroke. All right. We do that as individuals, then we do it progressively, where you'll have one sculler, then you'll have a second sculler join, then a third sculler join, then a fourth sculler join, getting everybody to be quicker as they do it, but maintaining where that energy is going. So we would progress with the rhythm under the water, which is your legs, body, arms, then working the rhythm above the water. We like to put in a lot of pauses or reference points. So we'd have our athletes sit at the finish, and when we're setting them up as they first get in the boat, there is that adjustment that has to be made. Are they rigged too high? Are they rigged too low? Are they rigged just right? To be rigged just right, you want about that much span between your hands. You want your thumbs touching your ribs, and you want your elbows slightly above or even with the handle. Anything other than that is going to be actually dangerous for the athlete because, again, if you're rigged too high, things are going to go wrong. You're going to hurt your back, whatever. All right. So getting them set in the boat, then we work on the rhythm above the water, pausing at the finish. What does pausing at the finish gain you? Well, if you're pausing at the finish as a reference point, and I wouldn't want to pause there for any other reason but to have a reference point, by pausing at the finish, you're going to know if you're right hand lazy. If you're right hand lazy, it means your right hand's going to be lower than your left hand. The boat's always going to be down on port. So again, how do you get to that position? There's so much rehearsal that can be done doing that. We'll have people sit in the finish position and just move their arms out and back with the oar touching the water so they can see where their arms are supposed to be, keeping in order to keep the blade in the water. If the elbow goes down, the pressure is going to come down on the hands, the blade's going to come out of the water early, and it's not good. All right. We will pause at hands away. What does pausing at hands away teach you? It teaches you patience. If everything comes out of the bow at the same time, meaning the hands and the body come out of the bow at the same time, that's going to perpetuate rush to the front, which is going to make you probably check the boat down. So teaching patience about sitting here, the coach is focusing. Okay, they're sitting in the right position. They look comfortable. They look strong. Pausing at hands away. What's happening when the body is staying in the bow and the hands moving away? The boat's continuing to move. All right. You go to body prep, you're set. What does body prep mean? Body prep means that you are prepared to take the stroke and can move at any point from that point to the catch, right? There's no other movement from body prep to the catch other than the hands separating and the knees coming up. You don't want any excessive movement of the bodies up or down. Everything has to be horizontal as you move. Uh, Pausing at three-quarter slide. When we have masters that are constantly diving into the catch because of that rush, if you get them to pause at three-quarter slide, well, by three-quarter slide, they probably haven't dipped down yet. And they should be able to continue on into the catch without making that dip. Finding that length in the boat. Doing reverse hang drills, right, is again trying to set up an impulse that you're going to understand. Just like Fairbairn did back in the 1800s, trying to create an impulse. That's what we're trying to do by these static drills and these drills in quads where the boat is totally balanced and you're able to feel where the application is going. In a reverse hang drill, you sit at the finish, you push the oars forward, you move up the slide. At some point, it opens your hands up really wide. Your body's in a great position. From that position, you can do nothing other than press your legs down, keeping your body in that vertical position as long as you can before the body swings on, right? So we found that by slowing this process down, all of a sudden the patterning takes place. For the most of the training that we do through our camps, the athletes are rowing square blade. Why are they rowing square blade? They're rowing square blade because you want the extraction to come from the forearm and not from the wrist, right? By rowing square blade and by the coach focusing on the height of the blade off the water, you're creating a horizontal yet platform that they're moving on the recovery and moving on the drive. All right, the variance is very small. A little movement here is a great movement out at the end of the blade. All right, and that's going to affect the balance of the blade. So by moving our athletes in this structured position, right? The first thing that we get is, because posture is so important, how they're sitting in the boat is so important. People are coming back to the dock and go, God, I feel like I've been doing sit-ups all morning. Or the guys are saying, oh my God, my hamstrings are just screaming right now, because you're trying to get them to get to that forward body position, trying to get them to get that flexibility that is going to allow them to row better and longer. What the coach is doing is creating the neurological patterning over and over and over again in that controlled environment, to the point where start rowing by two people in the quad, it's good. Start rowing by three people in the quad, it's good. Start rowing all four, all of a sudden the boat has balance because you've set the patterning of where you've gone. In a defensive environment, in the single, you're all over the place. Muscles never relax. You never truly are able to take advantage of the economy of the sport. You know, in my lifetime, we've gone from wooden boats and wooden oars to pre-preg carbon fiber boats, extremely light oars, right? And you tend to lose the pulling feeling. Our singles are so light, it's so easy. Your body is immediately going to try to row simultaneously because your body knows the easiest way to get pressure on something and maintain pressure. But in our sport, it's more a question of gaining the length in our sport, right? Than just the pressure. We have to figure out how to accelerate. So that's another key in the equation as to how to move the boat. So that's why we spend so much time focusing on the legs before the body, before the arms. Ideally, you want to place that blade in the water, pull the boat past that spot. How do you do that? You do that by being accurate and by accelerating the handle through the drive. If you're accelerating the handle through the drive, thinking about growing the sport rather than getting up there and pounding the oar in the water, right? You're going to be moving the boat more efficiently and easier. You know, a lot of people come to the camps and they go, oh, my coach won't let me put the oar in the water. And I think that's the craziest thing. The water's the one thing that's constant. The water's flat, it's horizontal. If you're touching the blade, moving horizontally, again, you're finding that reference point. Even on a square blade, you can have light hands and have that blade coming around to touch the water to make the boat go faster. As a life sport, we are a high performance sport. What are we doing? Rowing is incredible because we use 86% of the muscles in our body. Like I was mentioning, the posture in the boat is so important. How we sit, in the boat affects how we breathe. It affects the energy that might be lost if our bodies are getting round and just getting thrown all over the place. Stimulating muscle fiber in a correct manner over and over again is what makes rowing a high performance sport. There's no shortcuts. You have to put in a lot of time, right? A lot of time just feeling the water, feeling the water, feeling the water, squeezing the water, getting that acceleration. Uh, we start everybody in the quads, then we move to the doubles. Again, educational experience, right? We're showing our athletes that when that the catch, their hands might be this far apart. But by the time the blade gets into the water, their hands are that much far apart. That's opportunity lost. All these little things are part of the educational process that we're trying to bring to the athletes. Again, finding that stimulus so they understand uh, what they need to feel. Uh, at this point, Jen, maybe you want to open it up to questions?
Yeah, let's do it. I guess I have a question for you, Jim, to start, which is we probably have some coaches on the call, but we also have some athletes who may not have the control maybe or influence within their club to say, "Hey, we need to slow down and practice good habits and sequence this better." Would you have any advice for them on how they can kind of in within their sphere of influence do
The
what you're
the
doing, do what you're
the
saying?
advice that I would give both them and the other club members is when people come as clubs to our All-American rowing camps, we encourage them to bring their coaches, and their coaches ride for free. All right. We want to do nothing more than educate these people because when they go back to their coaches at home, we want their coaches to see what we see. We want them on the same page as us. Interesting enough, over the past couple of years, we've been getting more and more real novice rowers coming to us that have come to us through the rowing machine hydro because they're able to get on this rowing machine and go and be watching on a screen good athletes rowing in front of them, and they're teaching the technique that we're teaching through our camps. And they get to our camps, and again, we start them off in quads, and then we move them into doubles, and then we move them into singles. And after 5 days, people that have never been on the water before are able to move fluently in a boat. Again, because that fear factor isn't there. They've mastered a lot of the movements. First, on their rowing machine, they understand the movement of the handle and the seat and how that has to work together. But visually, they've been looking at good scullers and kind of understand, well, this is what it's supposed to look like. These scullers aren't rushing up the slide, right? So, to answer your question, we prefer coaches to come with their teams so they can ride and be educated because it is an educational process. Think about all the facets of rowing that you can talk about. Besides the technique on the water, physiologically, what's happening to these people? Technically, we go through how to rig a boat, right? Now, Jen, you have mixed crews rowing in masters races all the time. How do you get them together? Some of the slides that I wanted to show is how to get oars parallel in the boat, right? Everybody isn't the same size. And if you have a mixed masters quad, you might have two smaller women and two larger guys. How do you get them to row together, right?
Mhm.
Well, one of the things is a lot of the clubs come in and say, well, all of our oars are set at the same length. And I'm thinking, that's crazy. How can you have all your oars set at the same length? If a 5'5" woman is rowing with a 287.87, her reach is going to be about that much. The guys that are rowing with the 287.87 that might be 6'5" have a range of this high. So then that means you have somebody that's rowing with a 60-degree catch angle and somebody that has a 30-degree catch angle. That can be quickly modified by giving the shorter person a 285, 85. With the shorter inboard, they're able to reach around the pin more. They're able to match the length of the guys in the boat, right? And then you can
Mhm.
get into even more sophisticated rowing if you have a mixed double that really want to accelerate. All right, they can, the guy can be spanned at 160, the woman can be spanned at 158. He can be rowing with a 287, 87. She can be rowing with a 285, 85. Catch and finish angles can be managed, but that's one of the problems with the growth of our sport. In the past 25 years, thanks to gender equity in Title IX, our sport has exploded. Our coaching education hasn't kept up with that. Back in the day, there were so few coaching jobs that somebody apprenticed with a master coach for years and years and years. Today people are graduating from college and they think they're a coach. They don't understand the science. All they understand is what their coach taught them in the previous years. So there's a lot of misinformation when you get out into the clubs and you're listening to these coaches and what they're telling you to do. And again, if you think about it, the first priority of a coach is safety on the water. The second priority is safety of the athlete. If these athletes aren't rigged right or rowing right, they're going to get injured. All right, and that doesn't help anybody.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim. We have a few questions coming in through the chat. Jeffrey asks, please discuss how you teach the lifting of the hands at the catch, um, the connection with the water.
It's not the lifting of the hands, Jeffrey. It's the lifting of the arm. All right. And that's why I prefer a lot of square blade rowing. All right. Again, going back to even what our college coaches had us doing 50 years ago when I was in college, we did the pick drill and the swing pick. What does the swing pick teach you to do? It teaches you to lift your back and your arm at the same time. That's wrong, right? You want to have that body in that body prep position, and it's the arm that unweights the oar handle. And unweighting the oar handle is probably the best phrase you can have. With younger kids, with masters, I challenge them. Can you take your hand off of the oar? All right. Think about trying to take your hand off of an oar and that oar coming up, right? How fast is that movement? Again, talking about loss, opportunity lost. I see, masters, women coming up to me and they're reaching out and their hands are so far apart, they've got at least a 60-degree catch angle. Of course, they're rigged properly. But the time it takes to get the blade in the water, by the time it takes to get the blade in the water, the hands are this far apart and you've lost so many degrees of front end, right? And the front end is the easiest part of the stroke. I view the front end as the body coming in and just the compression of the body. When that arm comes up and the blade takes the water, it's just the body naturally wanting to move out of this compressed position. That's all the pressure you need on the face of the blade to start propelling that boat past that spot. When coaches are talking about hitting the catch hard and everything, I think what a waste. I mean, every sculler knows if you pull too hard, the oar does that. That's energy escaping from the top and the bottom of the blade. You want that blade just to be held and then accelerated through. So, Jeffrey, it's about the arm coming up, not the hand coming up. The arm has to come up. The wrist always has to be flat. Just like in tennis, if that wrist has too much flexion in it, you're going to get tendonitis. You want to get your athlete used to hanging on a nice straight arm.
Amazing. Thank you. Kathy asked, can you talk about breathing during low stroke row training versus high strokes race competition?
Yeah, I always try to talk about breathing as part of your rhythm. And when you were doing really slow work stuff, I'm always focusing on more taking the air in as you're coming out and blowing it out as you're taking the stroke. As a scuba diver, you learn a lot about embolisms and holding your breath and the pressure that can be built up with that. So I always want to be thinking, you're always going to be exhaling on that. But to make that, again, patient, calm movement as you move into the catch, taking the air in and then accelerating through. That breathing pattern is going to change when the stroke rating comes up. You actually might be breathing twice between every stroke.
Mm, that's helpful. You're getting some love in the chat too, Jim, from Sharon B and Melissa, who have been to your camps. So,
Well,
shout
I'll
out
tell
there.
you, Sharon, I had so much video of you guys from Indianapolis that I wanted to show on this morning, and it's just not working, unfortunately.
Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Yeah,
Okay, one more question or here, but keep them coming. Deirdre says we offer learn to row as well as we learn to erg as well as learn to row. Our first session of learn to row is on ergs to teach the sequence. What would you focus on first with new rowers on the erg?
posture. Posture and that sequencing. And that's the way I did it all through my college years with all of the women that came into to UMass that had never ever seen a boat or anything before. They were always taught that posture first on how to sit on the erg, go through the same exercises, legs, body, arms, lots of pausing. That's the rhythm under the water, the rhythm above the water, pausing at the finish, pausing hands away, pausing at body prep. Now, what I would do there, and it's more easily done today, is I would mount a camera on a tripod looking directly at them from the side position, so from 90 degrees away. So they could see through the TV in front of them what their body angle looked like through that. And through that, you could really be focused on keeping the body in that hang position as long as you can before you swing, before you add the arms, right? With a mirror in front of them on the erg, I would actually draw lines on the mirror. This is where I want to see your elbows at the finish. Again, you want to get to Carnegie Hall. It's practice, practice, practice. They've got to know where they're sitting and where that comfort zone is and what good rowing looks like. You know, too many boathouses and go to any erg championship, you see people just rowing terribly, right? And they're pulling up to their neck and they're opening their back and it's all this force thing. And that doesn't move a boat, right? You want positive reinforcement. On the ergs as well, all right, you want to pay attention to the height from the seat to your heels, right? That specificity. If I have a person set up properly in the boat where they're sitting properly at the finish, right, for that proper height, I am looking at the height then from the low point of their seat to the heels of their foot stretcher. Because if that's the way you're going to be in a boat for a few thousand miles, when you're on the erg in the winter months, you want to have that same height differential from the knees to your body and everything else. But setting the proper heights on the seat, you know, for your heel height and everything else is very important as well.
Amazing. Thanks, Jim. I guess I have another question for you, which is, as you said, you're kind of the definition of a lifelong rower, right? You've appeared at many Olympics, World Championships, you've coached Olympics and World Championships, you've coached college athletes, you now coach masters, you've coached our own Amanda Kraus. What, I guess, two questions. What kept you in rowing, and what is one of the highlights, your biggest highlights of your career?
Well, I think it's more important what kept me in rowing. All
Okay.
right. And, you know, again, it takes 70 years for you to figure out that rowing is a drug. All right. And then when you're rowing in a high performance sport and you have that connection every day where your body is physically working through that, that kicks off in endorphins that make you feel good. I mean, literally, when I'm not feeling good, I want to go row.
Mm.
That's what keeps you healthy. You know, one of the phrases that I use is motion is the lotion, right? If you do it every day, you just get used to doing it and you have this euphoria where by the time you get off the water in the morning, it's like what else can I do for the rest of the day? This has just been great. You know, the other phrase that I use a lot is you use it or you lose it, right? You need to keep it going every day. I mean, I look forward so much to getting on the water every day,
Love
right?
that.
And it's not a question of going out and rowing hard. It's just a question of going out and rowing there. It's like I love to meet the old boys in the morning on Mashpee Pond and go out and row 12 or 16K and then shoot off with the old boys to breakfast, right? The poor guys that have to go to work, I tell them you need to retire because you need to row more.
Mhm. Love that. Thank you for sharing. Margot asked Jim, can you briefly talk about your racing history and the books you're in?
I'm in a few books, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a few books, and some of them are worth reading, I guess, but overall, I'm working on my own. So at some point, that'll be the
Hmm.
book. All right.
Excellent. That's good to hear. We'll be
Yeah.
looking out for that.
hmm
Jody asks, so often masters come to me with pre-existing injuries in knees and hips. Any advice on how to help them? What modifications have worked for you?
Well, first of all, you're talking to a guy who has two new titanium knees, and I'm all about getting new parts. I mean, my knees were destroyed from years of running and cross-country skiing and lifting, and all of a sudden, and you get a couple of new titanium knees, you just feel great, right? But again, a lot of that is how these people with these pre-existing conditions have unfortunately not been taught properly to row in the boat, right? Some of the knee problems, especially for the women, not so much in the boat, but I think they get it more on the erg, is they have a tendency to hyperextend their knee, and that throws you off. It's a slow process, like any process. I think if you start even in a rehab stage, slowly you're going to be able to build that athlete back up again. When I had both my knees replaced at the same time, uh, the physical therapist said, "Look, it's going to be uncomfortable. You just have to stretch these things out, and there's no shortcut to doing it." What I did is I took a 4x4, I put it on the back end of my erg, so I was rolling downhill and I would accelerate into the catch to stretch the ligaments in my knee to get them back out and able to move properly, but you can overcome a lot of these injuries just by starting to row right and getting your body prepared well. Again, talking about posture in the boat. So many athletes after a week at our camps will say, geez, I feel like I've been doing sit-ups every day and I haven't done a sit-up. It's because they're not used to sitting up and strengthening their core, and you have to do that in the boat. You will become stronger just by being in the boat. Rowing is an interesting sport in that we're lifting all the time, right? If you're in a single and your boat weighs 35 pounds, you're lifting 35 pounds every day, right? If you're rowing at 20 strokes a minute, that 35 pounds is heavier than it would be if you were rowing 30 strokes a minute. You're constantly lifting. We're constantly going into headwinds, right? We're lifting all the time. If the body again is set in the proper sequencing, getting that neurological patterning, the body's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger as you do it.
Awesome. Thank you. Mike asks about videos and or slides being available after. I think, Jim, we can try to work on that. I
We
don't
can
know.
try to work on that. I mean,
Yeah.
I truly had a ton of stuff, and I was really excited to show it. At our camps, we're on the water 2 to 3 times every day, and after each session, pretty much, we're doing video review. Those athletes that are studying their own videos are becoming better coaches because they're understanding what the coach is seeing. And to get back to the question earlier that somebody posed, you know, if you just get somebody in the club to come out and video you guys, you'll be able, who have been to these camps, you'll be able to say, oh, look, I'm opening too early, or oh, my blade's not getting in, or this the finish is sloppy. I'm dragging out of the water. The boat's being pulled out to port. I must be dropping my right hand. So that education process again is for the athlete, you
Mhm.
know, and that will help.
Absolutely. So Blair asked, though there's an ideal positioning for our bodies, often there's a lack of flexibility to be able to reach those positions, especially in masters. If someone can't reach the proper catch position, what do you think is most important regarding body positioning?
Some of those reasons, Jen, are mechanical. And what I found, especially for a lot of smaller men and women that are rowing in boats that are too big for them, it's hard to row them to get them rigged properly to be able to get the flexibility to get the body over. What I have done for years now is either build the seat up or get a thicker rowing pad, all right? By getting the body position a little higher. And for guys that have got a corporate physique and they're just getting back into it and they can't reach over that stomach, all right? You get them up on a high seat, they're able to get the body over more. The pelvis tilts forward and they'll be able to get that forward body position. So, thinking about the mechanics in the boat and how that athlete can be better served, or a short-waisted athlete like myself, who, as they're rowing, their knees are up in their chin to
Mhm.
get the body up a little bit higher, tilts the pelvis forward, able to enable them to get that forward catch angle. That's one of the things that inflexibility to be able to get the length that you need. I tell people, if you look in all the old rowing magazines and stuff like that, everybody's down low like the old East Germans, and they're trying to get that length. Well, with today's boats that are built, our style has changed tremendously. We're sitting up much taller, able to move through the pin and open up more. But if you can't get that pelvic tilt to get the body forward, your catch angle is so short, you're constantly chasing the water where you should be locking into the water. Think about it. If that athlete can get out to a 60-degree catch angle, drop the blade in the water, where's the high pressure area when the blade goes in the water? It's not on the front of the blade, it's on the back of the blade. It'll actually pull you forward as you move through. So that's a great question, but I think you can look to solve that by getting them a little bit higher seat. Ropad.com, they make a 3 millimeter seat now that gets you up higher. For some people that might not be enough. I had slides I was going to show here this morning of seats that I actually build up an inch or two to get the athlete higher.
Awesome. I think Jody feels validated. She said, "Thank you. My coach doesn't believe me that I need a thick seat, 5'3" and big stomach person here to get better, proper positioning." So there you go.
That was Jody.
Yes.
Jody, if you look today, David can beat Goliath because in my day, all the boats were built for big guys like me. You're looking at people like Finn Hamlin now from New Zealand, basically a glorified lightweight. This other sculler from Greece. These guys aren't big people at all, but they're able to row at the same catch angle as a Maher Drysdale because again, the mechanics of the boat can be changed. You know, the boats are built for smaller people now. You can get tighter spans, shorter inboards. Everybody can maintain those outward catch angles. So that's why they got rid of lightweights at the Olympics. They're just as fast as the heavyweights when it comes right down to it.
Rowing's for everybody. Okay, let's see. Well, maybe we'll go with this last question here and then we'll toss it to you, Jim, for some final words. Marcy asks, how do you stop the athlete from opening their back early, causing them to dig deep?
The reverse hang drill is great for that, Marcy. All right. In that if so here's the scenario, Marcy. I started this drill years ago where I would literally stand in the water and I'd have an athlete sitting at body prep with their arms out right? And blades squared in the water. And I would grab the stern of the boat and pull it underneath through my legs, which with the pressure on the blade then pulls the athlete forward. All right. When the athlete gets forward, there's that oh shit moment where, oh, especially if they're in a single, oh my God, what am I going to do? I've never been out here before. What do? They press their legs, right? From that, we went to the reverse hang drill where you backed into it and then stopped the boat and then changed direction. At that point, the load is too great. It's impossible for them to lift early. They have to drive horizontally and then swing, right? Again, just like Fairbairn did in the 1800s, you're setting up a stimulus that the athlete is going to understand. When you're at the reverse hang drill, your arms are already extended, you're out so far, right? And the blade's in the water. That's total opportunity. And then when they press and take that stroke, it's like, oh my God, that stroke
My
felt so
God, that
long.
stroke felt so long.
There's an echo.
Hmm. I wonder why that is. Oh, is it
I don't
gone?
know. Maybe there's two of me.
I think it's gone. That's good.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt there, Jim. Did you finish up that
Yeah, I
question?
think
Okay.
so.
Awesome.
I mean that's a great one. And another one for that is we talk about people being greedy, all right? And we joke about the greedy bitch that, she's got perfect body angle, but then she gets to the catch and she tries to get more. So what happens when she tries to get more? When she reaches more too far, her seat's actually going this way, which is moving her away from the pin, right? If we have them get up to three-quarter slide, pause there, the tendency won't be to drop the body down. It'll be just to move up. And as the first conversation went, the placement of the blade is going to come from the entire arm moving up.
Nice. Yes, don't be greedy. You
Don't
have a
be
request
greedy.
here. You have a request here. I wonder if it already exists or maybe it's something you could do. We obviously hear wonderful things about your camp, so I encourage everyone to check those out. But Blair asked if you have any in-person workshops specifically for coaches.
No, but we're planning on it. They are right now building the Deitz Rowing Center down in Mystic, Connecticut, and my partner Mark and I are talking all the time. We'd like to reach more coaches. We would like to teach more coaches. And again, there's that freestanding thing that anytime a coach comes down to our camps during the winter, they can come and ride in the boats with us.
Incredible. Awesome. Well, Jim, before we wrap up here, I wanted to, do you have any final words or
No,
advice?
again, motion is the lotion. I've been doing this for 63 years. I hope I can do it for another 20 at least. And the physical benefits of just rowing every day are huge. I mean, the compliments I get, like when I go through TSA and the guy goes, excuse me, sir, you have to take off your shoes. And I said, oh, if you're over 75, you don't have to take off your shoes. I'm 77. God, you're 77, you look great. Those are the benefits of rowing every day.
Amen to that. Yeah, you
Yeah.
look great.
Hmm.
Well, Jim, we're so lucky to have you both in our sport, but also just spending the morning with us. Thank you so much. And especially, I don't know, you're such a true rowing professional in that you adapted this morning. So I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties, but I think you really made the most of it. And it was a really engaged group too. So thank you.
Love to talk about rowing. We'll talk about rowing at the drop of a hat. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Awesome. And I wanted to just formally welcome everyone this morning to the Masters Summit. We're so glad you're here to spend the day with us. We had the Coxon Summit yesterday, which was one insightful thing after the next. So, as Jim is setting the tone for the day, we're definitely going to expect the same from today with wonderful quotes and practical tips and big ideas, all of it. And today is really about you all, and you've done so far today, but really encourage you to take advantage of our speakers and ask questions and share ideas and make sure to give us feedback after each session as well. So I want to thank Jim again, and I look forward to seeing all of you in the next few sessions. So enjoy your day.
Learning is a learning process, everybody. Get out there and learn more.
Thank you, Jim.
All
Talk to you
righty.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.